Good evening and welcome to ALOUD. Pleasure to see you here tonight. Who got to see the super blue blood moon last night? Yes! So this is a blue moon event tonight. Welcome to ALOUD. I'm Louise Steinman, the curator for the ALOUD series, which if you're here for the first time, if not, you've heard me say this many times, is presented by the Library Foundation of Los Angeles. We would love to tell you more about what we do to support the great work of the Los Angeles Public Library, so please speak to one of my staff members afterwards. Sign up so that you can hear about our upcoming events. We have an awesome spring season we're posting just very soon, and we'd love to have you join us and also have you help us support the Los Angeles Public Library and the great things that it does, from literacy programs for adults to programs for veterans to the New Americans program to the Democracy Project. So we need our libraries and we need your support. So I really thank you for considering that. Our format tonight is going to be a conversation between Bassem Youssef and Kelly McEvers. We will have some time to open to questions from you. We ask that you do make them a question. We will be circulating microphones. We'll try to get to as many of you as we can. And there will be a book signing in the lobby afterwards, courtesy of our library store. In his native Egypt, Bassem Youssef was a heart surgeon who loved to dance. He used to teach Argentinian tango and salsa, and it was a pastime that others in the conservative Cairo medical establishment sort of frowned on. In his hilarious new memoir, Revolution for Dummies, Laughing Through the Arab Spring, he writes of his determination to tango, quote, "I didn't care, though. I didn't censor myself to please them, and I didn't give up what I liked to earn their approval. Maybe I had a rebellious streak all along," which I thought was one of the great understatements. Bassem Youssef is a man of extraordinary fearlessness, and that rebellious streak served him well on his phenomenal rise as a political satirist on Egyptian TV, where he was often pegged as the Jon Stewart of Egypt. He even managed to welcome Stewart, an American Jew, to the heart of Cairo, and it was on Youssef's show that Stewart remarked, "If your regime can't take a joke, you don't have a regime." A comment, remarks Youssef, that still resonates with people in Egypt. And as both Bassem Youssef and Jon Stewart know, jokes are often mightier than the sword. Youssef's Egyptian TV career, which began with his recording segments in his laundry room at home, uploaded to YouTube, take note, had both a dramatic rise, a network TV show watched by millions, the most blockbuster show in the nation's history, and a dramatic end. After the fall of Mubarak, Youssef was arrested for making fun of President Mohamed Morsi, summoned to appear in court to face charges of insulting the state. And when President Sisi came to power with even less tolerance for dissident humor after death threats, the government jamming his TV signal, Youssef fled the country, packing 2 bags in just 90 minutes, with his friends driving him to the airport, headed for a flight to Dubai. He became, as he notes in his book, quote, "a comic on the run." In the US, he's recently hosted a show called Democracy Handbook, a 10-part series on Fusion TV, and he's been the subject of a film documentary called Tickling Giants, which unfolds during the 3 years that followed the 2011 Egyptian Revolution. We are delighted to welcome Bassem as a fellow Angelino and as an incisive and brilliantly humorous observer of our own Orwellian state of politics. And you should also know, and we hope you don't need one during this program, there is going to be a board-certified cardiothoracic surgeon in the house, but he advises if something happens, call 911. Tonight, Bassem Youssef is in conversation with journalist Kelly McEvers, who reported the Arab Spring for NPR. Kelly has been tear-gassed in Bahrain, spent weeks inside Syria with the Free Syrian Army, covered the final withdrawal of US troops from Iraq. I learned at dinner that she is the co-host of All Things Considered. Today was her last day, but she will be continuing as the host of the wonderful podcast Embedded. So if you haven't heard that, you'll want to follow her, working out of NPR West in my hometown of Culver City, California. Please welcome Kelly McEvers and Bassem Youssef.
You can tell who's been on TV and who's been on the radio. No, you look you
They
look
recognize
wonderful.
the TV person. Yes, thanks. I know this is good. We're gonna start from the very, very beginning.
Hmm.
You were born. No, I want to hear about your family background, if I could. I read in your book that your mother was a university professor. Your father was a judge. Were they funny people? Like that's the question that I kept thinking as I was reading your book.
No,
You
my dad
became a
was the
funny
most
person.
relaxed, chilled person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't care. I mean, it's like everything. The most common thing that he would say, whenever we come to him, is like, "Talk to your mother," and he was like,
That kind of dad.
that you have like a sitcom called like Married with Children. Like, he's sitting down, just like handing out
Yeah.
that was my dad. That
Right.
he didn't care. I
Right.
mean, he wouldn't. He was not a person of confrontation. He didn't have any problem with anything. My mom was the one who's had the fire,
Yeah.
and she kind of like scared the bejesus out of everybody in the house. And she's one woman with three men, me, my brother, and my dad,
Right.
and she like
She ruled
I mean,
everything.
yeah, yeah. She was wearing the pants, the cape, everything,
She
and
was wearing the pants, the hat, the shoes.
yeah.
But like, so okay, so he's chill, she's in charge.
Mhm.
But like, who's funny? Were you the one making them laugh? Like, where does the funny come from?
Well, people think that like because you did funny stuff, you might be funny at home.
Yeah.
Actually, like comedians are the most depressed people. Uh,
So you spent your time just like in your
no, no,
room,
I
just
mean, I
like
mean, we
I'm
we were
so.
kind of like mid-level funny people. It's kind of
So the dinner table wasn't like you being like,
no, the
hey.
dinner table we were discussing politics,
Uh-huh.
and we're discussing like matters of the world, like
Mm-hmm.
my like when we were like on long drives and travels, my dad would like test me which are the capitals of the world. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was our idea with fun. That's why I became a nerd and went became a doctor.
Right.
So
You say that it was a middle class upbringing. I wonder, as because you became a satirist, because you became someone who was able to comment on um, the political system around you.
mhm.
Was it more than just quizzing you on capitals? I mean, was
No,
there?
I think it was like after when the revolution happened, everybody who was never involved, because when you have a very long stagnant dictatorship, you kind of lose hope.
Mm,
And but then suddenly everybody was involved. And when I was a huge fan of the political satire that I saw on American television, because and I never thought that we would ever have something like this.
right.
But then there was like a world of opportunities. And when I approached this, I didn't approach it because I felt that I could be funny,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I kind of approached it with the same way that I would approach any medical procedure. I
Mm,
studied it,
mm-hmm.
I kind of analyzed it, I tried to see how we can bring that kind of know-how to this part of the world.
Hmm.
So it was more of a process than let's just like turn on the camera and I'll make you
I'll
laugh.
just be funny.
No,
Right.
it was
No.
always it was all about the process. And after the first year, I mean, so I did it on YouTube, and I never thought that a lot of people will
Right.
watch. And then like millions of people watching, and suddenly I'm having TV deals. And then for the first year, I did like a show on TV, which had a very small audience, pre-recorded. And then I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do this like what I saw in American television. I want to do it like the Daily Show. So I went to America and I tried to start to shadow his team for a week to see how they are doing. And I
Right.
brought the producers and started to
Yeah.
do that. So it was more of a studying
Huh.
what is
As
so
opposed to like,
yeah.
I'm a naturally funny guy.
No,
Like I should
no,
do
no,
this.
no. It was more of a believing in the process, not believing in how funny
Huh.
or unfunny you are.
Huh. Um, why did you become a doctor?
Oh, to please my parents, of course. To please my mom.
It's just as simple as that.
Absolutely.
You knew that's what she wanted you to
It was
do.
either a doctor or an engineer. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Those were your
that. These
only
are the two.
choices in life.
And I hated math, so I went to medicine.
What would have happened? So, like, we're like way before the revolution. You're like growing up. What would have happened if you had gone, you know what, Mom? I actually want to have a TV show and, do political satire. Like, can you just imagine that conversation
I would have
now?
like a kind of like a 3 weeks of silent treatment,
Yeah.
and she'll be very upset. This is
Hmm.
I mean, the thing is, they never tell you what to do.
Mhm.
but they make you do it.
Explain that. How does that work?
No, I mean like, yeah,
Because I come from the opposite people. It's all passive aggressive. It's like, oh, I mean, we don't really want, but yes, we do. You know, it's like,
it is more of an indoctrination, like everything else in the Middle East. Everything in the Middle East is indoctrination. Politics, religion, society, everything is indoctrination.
Mhm.
So part of the indoctrination that you should not make your parents upset.
Right.
So this is like
Yes.
like your goal.
Right.
So if she's upset, I will feel very bad.
Uh-huh.
So I kind of yeah.
So you're like, I'm going to major in poetry. She
Mm,
gets upset.
yes.
You know that that's not a good option.
So
Uh-huh. That's.
and then at the end I didn't tell you to do anything, but I ended up doing
I
it.
didn't tell you
I
to do
didn't
that,
tell
but
you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
But I
know,
told you.
I didn't force you.
What was she a
It's
professor?
kind of like it's more of like a Jewish mother, you know. It's kind of it's how like pushing everything through guilt.
Right, right, right,
Yes,
right, right.
yeah,
If you
everything.
I mean, if you,
If you don't eat, if you don't
I'm
do
not going to
the,
tell you to
if
do
you
that, but
choose
if
the
you
career,
don't
if
do
you
it,
don't marry,
it's going to kill me.
same thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What was she a professor of?
Business administration, business.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And she taught at the university.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And so you became a doctor, and your brother was an engineer, which, as you write in your book, is just like that's the
Yeah.
double win.
It is.
She gets both.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like here when you have a lawyer and a dentist
Right. You're just like, you're good.
and Jewish.
Right. You're
That's why I
covered.
always say we're almost a Jewish family.
She's just totally covered. She's
Yes.
just like, and so
Yes.
she can tell her friends, like, one's a doctor, one's,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
A
one's
doctor
an
and engineer.
engineer.
That's it.
Okay.
Yes. We have
So
a crappy car, but like I have one as a doctor, one as an engineer. It's fine.
exactly, that's all that matters.
That's
Yeah, you got bragging rights with the neighbors. And so then this thing called the Arab Spring happens, right? I mean, I of course remember it really well. I lived in the region too. But I was just a visitor there. Like, what was it like those early days? Just, seeing people in your city flooding to the square, saying things like, the people want to follow the regime. Just like things that had never heard before. What was it like?
Yeah, it was something.
You were a doctor still at the time.
It was all like a surprise for everybody. It was surprise for the people living there. It was surprise to the regime, and it was surprise for Hillary Clinton and Obama. It was everybody was surprised. It's
Yeah.
like now it's like what is happening?
Yeah.
And because like it happened in Tunisia a few weeks ago, but Tunisia is very small, you know.
I mean,
And
they got
I'm,
rid
I'm
of a
not trying to
dictator,
diss,
it's like
Tunisia, but and this is the reason we did our revolution because we were jealous. So we
well, because not even jealous. It's like we're bigger. I mean,
w-
come on,
we're not
we can
gonna-
do better than that. Yeah, come on.
We're not gonna
You
get
little
those little things.
Getting
up
rid
to,
of your
yeah.
dictator people.
So,
Like we're gonna.
So when it happened, it was a surprise for everybody, and it is the fact that like Mubarak would be removed would be. We grew up with this guy.
Yeah.
It is kind
was
of
a
it's kind
lifelong-
of like nostalgia. It's like what do we do now?
Well, what would we even do? But you were working as a doctor at the time, and so when people first started going out into the square and protesting, and there were a lot of different phases, and you talk about it in your book. But at first, you didn't go out yourself, right?
I like the big day was the 28th, which is because the 25th people came in and then they left because they were dispersed by the police, and then the 28th was the big day of like where the police kind of fell, and we watched this on television and couldn't believe it. So from the next day I started going,
Right.
and I didn't know what to do, so I started to buy food and just give it to the people who sitting there like many other people did, and then I started to volunteer in this makeshift clinic,
Right.
and because I didn't know what else to do other than like treating people from wounds, or because for the following day there were people trying to attack the people in the square and drive them out. So I was just there, trying to do my job as a doctor. The whole idea
Right.
about like political satire or TV was not even there. That was not even born yet.
You were wearing your scrubs.
Yeah,
you
because
were
kind
sort
of like give me some credit.
Just
wearing-
like I'm the doctor. I'm the doctor in the square, giving away food.
Yes.
And then when did you start making the videos in the laundry room?
After Mubarak fell 6 weeks,
Okay.
so I started doing these videos, and
Yeah.
the videos were
And
very
what were they
simple,
like?
5
Yeah, what
minutes.
were they like?
5 minutes,
Yeah.
me bringing a video of like so the focus of the early videos about like how the panic that the 18 that the media state-run media created during the revolution,
Right.
how they were trying to convince everybody that those people in the square are like spies, operatives being paid by outside. And I always say like, they were telling people that those are not revolutionaries. These are not even Egyptians. They were all paid
Right.
and pushed by America,
It
Israel,
was right.
Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas together.
Right. Yes, which makes total sense. It was me and my friends. We were all working for the CIA, and we
Yeah.
actually started the revolution.
Yeah.
And there were no Egyptians there.
Yeah, no,
And the
yeah.
Egyptians who
I
were
mean,
there,
no,
we
there
paid
were
them.
Egyptians, but they were either like
Yeah.
misguided,
Right. Or
or
paid. Right.
or operatives.
There's so many people in the square. It's really
Yeah.
hard to imagine like
Yeah,
how that's
and
even.
this is why it was funny if you watched the Egyptian television at that time, because they would had steady like a camera that is had like um, one view, which is an empty bridge.
Yes.
So the camera never if you want to see the masses, like the real masses, the real numbers, you have to go to international
Right.
networks. But the Egyptian television never in the 18 days uh, actually got the view of the square.
I remember I was in Baghdad at the time. We were watching Al Jazeera on one screen, and it's just like, tons of people, and then like you'd watch state TV on the other screen just to laugh,
Nothing,
just
yeah.
to see like the alternate reality.
Yeah, they would bring something as empty as Trump's inauguration. It was so. So it was.
So I mean, this
was-
is the thing that you picked up on so early, right? That you were like, there's this official state version of things,
Yeah.
and we should definitely make fun of that.
Yeah, yeah, because like
Even if it was in your laundry room,
yeah, I mean so after like everything settled down, people started to upload these videos because I was not following the television that much because I was in the square.
Yep.
So I started to look at the videos and say like this what was happening when we were there. So I started to collect them, edited them, categorize them, and then and try to kind of put them in a funny way as much as possible through this very primitive production of the YouTube videos that we did.
I guess what I'm wondering is like, what made you think that was okay at the time? What made you think you were like safe to do that?
No, I mean
And to mock the official version of things in a way that nobody had really
because
done.
there was no authority.
Yeah.
I mean, basically the authority, which was kind of at that time the military council,
Yeah.
kind of like tried to wash his hands from that.
Mm-hmm.
Tried to distance himself from the pre-revolution media.
Right.
So it's as if it was allowed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of it was kind of an unspoken, unwritten rule
Yeah.
that you can go there.
Yeah.
And I really didn't like do it with the intention that I'm gonna be like a big star. I mean, at that time I was waiting for my papers to arrive from Cleveland because I was accepted as a pediatric heart surgeon there, like a fellowship there, and I was just like spent like killing time until that happened.
With your friends, making videos.
Yeah,
In
just
the
doing
laundry
videos,
room.
and I said like, maybe in a couple of years, somebody will discover this on the internet, and maybe when I come back, I can produce this show. I didn't even think that I could host the show.
But even at that time, you sort of had Jon Stewart in your mind, didn't you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You watched the show.
Hmm.
Yep. And what was it about it that just said to you?
I mean, I have to I mean, I have to be very thankful for the Daily Show, not for just like because he was funny or smart, because I understood American politics through him. As an Egyptian living most of his life in the Middle East, how do you understand? I mean, yeah, I mean, like this is like how I got introduced to American culture. I mean,
Was Jon Stewart.
first there was the Muppet Show. I mean, there was all those American movies,
All
but
these
like, but
Crucial touchdowns. Yes.
But by the
Yeah.
way, I think the Muppet Show is one of the most
Same.
intelligent
It's
shows
amazing,
there.
yeah.
It's like I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
As I mean, and I kind of appreciate it now more than I was a kid.
Yeah.
They're very smart.
Yes.
And I kind of like I am very sad that it's not. Anyway, so you have the Muppet
I
Show,
show- I still
and
show it to
then
my kid.
and then you watch and then you watch Friends, and then and then you
70s,
evolve and you
90s.
watch Seinfeld,
Mm-hmm.
and then you evolve and you watch Frasier.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
so and then you get into And then when I watched Jon Stewart for the first time, I didn't know what he was saying. What is Democrat and what is Republican? Why? What is a blue state and a red? What is this? What is Fox News? And why is he keep mentioning Fox News?
Yeah.
What is wrong with Fox News? These people seem terrible. So for him, so it's kind of like for me when this was my history class. This was like my kind of like my modern history class watching the show, and it was just like an incredible ride. So it's kind of like without knowing it, the years of me watching the show kind of like uh, put its seeds in like how I now then I started watching Egyptian politics.
Hmm. So let's fast forward a little bit. Mubarak falls. There's a referendum, there's an election, blah, blah, blah. Like, people can read the book to find out the rich and deep history of this period in Egypt. um,
It's outside,
there's a way you can get it.
or you can order
Um,
it on Amazon.
but, the Islamists
And you
eventually
see,
take, right?
I'm being American already. I'm already
Yeah,
like shamelessly
hawking.
promoting
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Welcome,
yes.
welcome.
And
Um,
there's also like at the back there's recipes.
False. So the Islamists, there's a democratic process. The Islamists take over, right? The Muslim Brotherhood is in power. And for someone, and then you get a show, not just in the laundry room, you get a show on TV. It's a big deal. But for a satirist, the Islamists were kind of the best thing that could have happened to you in a way,
Yeah,
right?
there were. I mean, they are like every single right-wing authority anywhere in the world.
Hmm.
They are funny because they're just funny. And it's just like I mean, the thing is like they are you understand you realize that these people have always been just talking to themselves,
Mm,
and when they get exposed to the world, it's like what? I mean, why are people laughing at what I'm saying? I mean, it seems to make perfect sense to all of those people indoctrinated with my
right.
kind of ideology all their
Yes.
lives.
But when I say it to
And
the world,
whether that was the Islamists, the hard right-wing Christians, military everywhere,
yep,
it's the same thing.
yep.
They don't see outside of that kind of lens of focus.
Hmm.
So, and then suddenly they are in power, and they have their channels and their TV channels and their TV outlets, and and everybody now is allowed to talk, and there's kind of like a freedom of expression for everybody.
Right.
And the more you speak, the more you're gonna mess up, and the more material I'm gonna have. So that was happening,
Right.
and so it was very interesting to see how they dealt with power when they got it, uh, because now you can see all of the years of the kind of ideology that they've been fed and told and taught. So of course that was a great time for us.
Yeah, there's a part in the book where you almost say, like, it just sort of writes itself, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they go on TV and they give a speech, and you're just like, well, we know what our show is tonight. I mean, that
it
was,
was easy,
yeah.
and the same thing happened when the military took over. By the
Uh-huh.
way, it's when you have whenever you have like an authoritarian regime who think that they own the world, they will come in and they will mess up and they give you material. Because they think that no matter what I will do, my base will always listen to me.
Right.
So, yeah.
There's this one story you tell about going to a hairdresser. Do you remember that? And he talks to you about why the Islamists, whether it's the Muslim Brotherhood or the more hardline Islamists, right? Um, why they're popular, why people like them, or why people voted for them. Do you remember that
Yeah,
story that
so
guy tells
so
you?
Egypt
I
is
love that
in
story.
Egypt there's a very we have a very interesting society. So it is conservative, but like underneath there is all of these people who just like drink beer and they smoke like drugs, and they just they do. I mean, we're not a pious people. We pretend to be. We have this kind of pretension, like all of the conservative societies. But underneath, there is this kind of like they have like a kind of a loose thing. But they will be very critical of people who do not appear conservative. So,
Right.
the guy has been, the hairdresser. I didn't change my hairdresser, even when I became, TV. So I still went to his shop. So I told him, why are you voting for him? And then he said, well, uh, God is angry with us, and maybe if we elect people who are men of God, God will actually kind of save us.
So it's like a
And
guilt vote.
it yeah, it was guilt vote. And then I said I said that this is a very ridiculous um, way of thinking. But during the parliament elections in the coastal cities where you had the Red Sea and where basically these are cities that are like their bread and butter that are dependent on tourism and selling alcohol. Vast majority went out and they voted Islamists because they felt that they were guilty because they were having money through
Right.
this. But we don't have anything else, so we will still continue getting the money, but we will clear our conscience by voting for them.
Hmm. Which is just amazing.
Yeah, but
And the
so
funny thing too is that you are so popular with all of these people too. You could be criticizing the Islamists, making fun of the things that they were saying, but yet people who supported them, who voted for them, will also be watching your show and laughing
yeah,
right along with you.
and people who hated me who still watch the show.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate watching the show big
Yeah.
time.
Hate watching.
Oh yeah.
Right, because they were like, I like the Islamists, but that guy's criticizing them, but I'm going to watch it anyway
Yeah,
because he's
they
making me laugh.
yeah, they were like it's kind of like this is why our ratings were great because everybody was watching.
Right,
It's kind of like you watching The Bachelor. It's horrible, but you cannot stop.
right. You were saying at dinner, I mean, that then on the Islamist channels, they would like run huge portions. They would talk about your show
Yeah,
all week.
so my show would air on Friday, and the next day, my show will be like huge clips of it will be played on all of the Islamic channels, and they would bring pundits like, look what he did say, and then, but people kind of, it's kind of like sometimes you would catch them coming back from the clip, and people were laughing in the studio, which is like so very,
You got like this imam being like trying to be all positive.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, this infidel.
You know, in some
He's
ways,
funny, but he's an infidel.
right. I mean, you know, is some of the reason, do you think, why you were so popular is that you were just saying things that no one had ever said before, that you were just going there.
No, I know. I don't think that's the
You were
only
going
because when even when we were like here's the thing like the under the right after the revolution there were people saying all kinds of things.
Yeah.
There were even people who were quite outright rude.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of like they would go to what they did to the Islamists and they would be very rude and they would kind of belittle them, bring their families into the discussions. They would kind of like go low, and we never did that.
Yeah.
We've focused on facts and comedy basically,
Yeah.
and we never attacked Morsi as a person
Yeah.
or his family
Yeah.
or his wife, which was by the way done a lot on
Yeah.
other channels.
Yeah.
So it was not like how crass you are
No.
or how like aggressive you are. I think we were doing it more in an intelligent way.
Interesting.
And when that happened, when under the military, there was nobody else talking because all of the other like
Right.
all of the dissidents were like
Right.
shut down except us because it kind of like we were too popular to be shut down instantly.
But then,
So
well, and we'll get to that. Yeah.
yeah, but even that like if you compare like the level of criticism under the Islamists and under the military, it was like that.
Yeah.
But if you do it in comparative what was happening then,
Yeah.
we were kind of like the Islamists. We were here,
Mm-hmm.
but under the military, we were up there
Right.
because nobody else, like everybody,
Nobody
was
else was
supporting
doing
them,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing that happens, right? So the Islamists, again, long story. You can read all about it in the book. Eventually get out of power. The military eventually takes over. You don't belabor it too much in the book, but I mean, one of the great things about reading your book is it's this wonderful way of understanding what happened in Egypt through you. So let's just say the military gets back in power, and all of a sudden people are sort of like, hang on, you're still doing satire. What's the problem? I thought you were on our side. Like there was your fans, I think, thought that you were, because you were criticizing the Islamists, that you were taking a position. And then when you started criticizing the military, they were like, oh, wait,
yeah.
you
The-
can't do that.
The military is more untouchable
Right.
than religion.
Right.
And
this is a really interesting thing
the
about
military
Egypt.
is even more sacred than religion.
Right.
I mean, this is one thing that you discover.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, religion, well, there are so many versions of religion. There's the Islamists, there's the Salafis, there's the
Right.
moderate, there's the
Yeah.
extremists, there's like the people who pray and then they go drink alcohol. You don't know. There are so many things. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's like God will forgive.
Right.
But the army, there's only one,
Right.
and it's sacred, and
Yeah.
it's untouchable, and it is. But the thing is, I didn't even like make fun of the army. I made
Right.
fun of the people
Yep.
who are using, and this is the problem with people who hide under behind ideologies, whether this ideology is a religion or this ideology is the military and national security. Because when I was attacking making fun of the Islam, it's like, oh, you're making fun of Islam. When you make fun of like the ridiculous media that was supporting Sisi and the military, oh, you're making fun of our army, of the
Right.
troops,
Where you're like,
of
I'm
the
not
people,
actually.
people
Yeah.
who died for
Right.
this country,
Right. Right. Right.
you know. So it's the same thing. I mean, like we were discussing about like how it is very easy to turn everything into
Yeah.
a symbol that is untouchable. And this symbol could be a religion, an ideology, a flag, a national anthem. You cannot touch this.
Yeah.
Although the flag, the national anthem, the ideology was actually made for you
Yeah.
to enjoy these kind of freedoms, but they don't. They can't always draw the line. You can. So the symbol becomes you, and you become the symbol, and everybody is the ideology, and nobody is allowed to
Right.
go there.
Right.
So when you make fun of the fact that a certain ridiculous policy was done by the military leader. Oh, you're making fun of the army. No, I'm making fun of the policy.
This
Oh,
pers-
but he's an army. He's
Yeah.
a military. He cannot go no wrong. It's like, is he God? No, he's not. But we cannot make fun of him anyways. You know. So
Yeah.
it was the whole idea of like grouping ourselves, like clothing ourselves with this ideology that you cannot touch.
Yeah. And that's when it came to an end, right? I mean, that's when the show
Yeah.
stopped
Mhm.
because
But
despite the fact that you made that distinction and that
it
you and the
doesn't
show,
matter. People don't
yeah.
listen to you. People that want to listen what they want to listen
Right.
to. It's always about like, and if even if you're right, people will say like, oh, but you're rude. So
Do you think that just means that people like at the time, maybe even now, just like weren't ready for satire, like satire on all levels. They were ready for satire against certain things, but just not ready
no,
for it
the whole thing about
across the
people
board.
not ready. People are never ready for satire. By the way, people are never ready to be made fun of,
Uh-huh.
even in the most free. But the thing is, here you are protected by a system and a law that protects you, that allows
Sure.
you to do whatever
So even
you
if you're
want.
not ready, you
But it
still can't
doesn't
put me
matter.
in jail.
Like, so
Yeah.
I could actually go on, and people are still not got ready. But at the end, I was not terminated because the people went out in the streets
Yeah.
demanding that I would be full.
No.
I was dealt the heavy hand of the authority.
Yeah.
So if it was a fair combat, there were people who would not like it,
Yeah.
screw them,
Yeah.
and there were people who would still continue to watch it.
Right.
It's not like as if everybody's turned against the show. A lot of
True.
people who supported me turned against me. That's true.
Yeah.
But a lot of people wanted the show to
Right.
continue.
People who supported you when you're making fun
So
of the Islamists did turn against you.
and yeah, so at the end of the day, what really matters if you're having good ratings or not, which we always had.
Yeah.
Is that's the one thing that could actually decide if you are on television or not. Not
Here.
because
Yeah.
well, everywhere. Everywhere should be, but it's not because
Just like The Apprentice.
people are not ready.
Sorry.
People are not ready. I don't care. At the end of the day, it is always the authority who would stop you and then use the excuse of people are not ready. People
Yeah.
are not ready for satire. People are not ready for democracy.
Mm-hmm.
No, they are. You are not ready for democracy. That's a different thing.
And you're actually afraid of the fact that the people are ready. Maybe.
Yeah, oh,
right?
yeah,
The
yeah.
authority is terrified of the fact that the people are like going to keep
Yeah, and
watching
if
your
they're
show
ready
whether
with-
they like you or not.
and if they show readiness, we kill them. Yeah, that's the authority. They don't care.
Yeah.
It's everything that they say about like people are not ready for this. People, it's a reflection. It's a projection of what they feel, not the people.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's like when you find, well, I really find it interesting when I find like a politician here speak about the American people. Seriously, you are speaking in the behalf of all of the American people. The American people want this. The American people hate it. No, it's you. You have a problem with the media. You have a problem with this and that. Not the American people.
yeah.
Yes.
Like, don't do things in our name.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, the even the American people don't even like the American people. So that's true in every country. by the
depends.
way.
Yeah, exactly. Depends on who you ask.
Mhm.
So you left. Again, people can read about it in the book. You went to eventually Dubai. You came here to the U.S. And you made this show on fusion. Should we watch a clip really quick from the show?
Up
It's
to
called
you.
the Democracy Handbook, right? Do you guys have it?
It's a clip of a short.
I think it's a clip.
In the Middle East, hate destroys everything. Countries, cities, families. But here, it seems you found a constructive use for your hate. Making money. Hate is the new niche industry, and it's growing. Whether it's refusal to make cakes for gay weddings,
First Amendment, Constitution. I should not be compelled to make a wedding cake for a same-sex marriage.
controlling reproductive rights,
The High Court striking down a key provision in the Affordable Care Act that requires for-profit companies to provide comprehensive birth control coverage.
or your favorite, fat shaming.
Cassie Smith works as a Hooters girl, and her managers recently told her they had an issue with her weight.
They said that if in 30 days I improved my short and tank top size fitting, they would leave me alone.
Hating gays, hating women, hating large folk. Come on. I know there is plenty of people in this country who hate Arabs and Muslims. Somebody must be making money off of hating me. Meet Andy Hallinan, a simple guy with an even simpler dream.
I am just a high school dropout from Massachusetts. I ran the business out of my spare bedroom and my kitchen table for 3 years. I sold my Harley Davidson and I paid the first month's rent on this building.
But his baby, Florida Gun Supply, is no regular gun store.
You know, Florida Gun Supply is a mission, and the message that we have is greater than just, hey, come buy a gun and come give us money for your training. One morning I woke up, something just snapped in my soul, and I have been on a crusade ever since. And I developed the notion that Islam is evil. In order to stay protected against evil, we need to basically be armed up just the way that evil is and make sure that we can protect our communities, whatever threat may come. We hand select our customers to make sure that we are only serving people that we can hand a gun to loaded and feel that we're safe. I declared Florida Gun Supply a Muslim-free zone as a direct response to political correctness.
I'm Andy with Florida Gun Supply, and if you want to make your home safe from ISIS, all you need is one of our Muslim-free zone signs.
So what's the best thing about being Muslim-free?
We sold a bunch of really great stuff. For instance, we came up with our bumper stickers. It says, warning, this car is a MFZ. Now, we didn't necessarily want to spell out Muslim-free zone because that would be car bomb territory, right?
That would be the only reason, yeah.
We produced our ISIS hunting permits. It says no tagging required, no bagging limit.
That's so funny.
We worked with a company to create the Mohammed targets. Realistic-looking jihadis, but we taped the San Bernardino shooters' faces on them, and they started selling even better.
Muhammad target for $3, Muhammad with crotch shot.
For $5, yeah.
Let's face it, hate sells. Muslim-free gun stores are a great start, but the possibilities for new discriminatory business ventures are endless. What about Jew-free pet stores, Hindu-free vape lounges, even Christian Scientist-free Christian Science reading rooms?
Oh my God. One of the questions I was going to ask is like, is it harder to be funny now that you're not in Egypt? But I think you're doing
Well,
just fine.
he didn't know.
He had no. Did he not
he
know
didn't
you were?
know.
He didn't
Like,
know
he
you were
asked me,
Muslim.
where are you from? Like, I told him I'm half Italian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Half Italian, so it's kind of like, still Mediterranean, so I didn't really lie. We were occupied by the Romans, so there must be some Italian blood there.
So, taking the piss out of people is universal,
Mhm.
as we can see.
Mhm.
But do you miss it? Do you miss doing it in Egypt?
Oh, of course I miss it. Like, I mean, Egypt was like, it was a great, a huge stage. And it was something that we broke ground. We did something that nobody else did.
Yeah.
And we had an impact. We felt that every time that we had our show. It's like, watching everybody, like a huge amount of the population
Yeah.
watch it, not just in Egypt, but all like in the Arab world. It's kind of like Super Bowl Sunday every Friday.
Yeah. And everyone's
Yes.
talking about it. Like, the show would drop. I was there in 2013. Interesting time. It's like Friday night. Everyone's talking about it. They're talking about it for days. It's like the thing.
Yeah.
That must be.
Yeah, so of course,
Hard
so
not to
of
do that
cour-
anymore.
so yeah, I mean, like I don't think that there will be any kind of success that can match that, because even if I come here and even if I get if I'm lucky with some minor kind of success, I will never be able to replicate because that was something very unique and very different.
Mm-hmm. Is it interesting now, as you're doing satire in the U.S., you know, we're in a time where, I don't know, it kind of feels like nothing is taboo. You have a president who insert XYZ thing that he has done. I mean, the most recent thing is, you know, reports that, you know, he paid a porn star to not talk about a situation that they had together. I mean, these are just things that come out like every single day. Is it harder to do satire in some ways because, like, the things that are happening are themselves so completely absurd?
I think it's very hard to keep up with Trump.
Yeah.
I think it's harder for people because, like, he cannot be as ridiculous as him. I mean, well, if he paid the porn star, I mean, did he pay her well?
There we go.
We're talking about like
$130,000. I mean,
I
you
don't
know,
know.
you be the judge.
I mean, if he was a man, would he get double?
You still got it. Right on the spot.
So if you had like a male porn star and he paid him a 260, now that would be
Now we're talking.
something I would be very,
Me
very
Too
angry
business
about
right
this.
there. That's
Yes.
hilarious. You know, we talked
Equal
about
pay,
this.
people, equal pay.
We talked about this earlier, and it's a question that I think about a lot. And it was right. We talked about this, but I'm going to say it here. You know, right after the election of Trump, I read this really interesting column by an Italian journalist who said, "We laughed at Berlusconi for decades. Stop laughing at Trump. Laughing isn't going to get you anywhere." You know, like, you know, you had celebrities talking about Trump in the run-up to the election, and everybody's laughing. Everybody's like, "I can't believe it. It's so outrageous." And then he gets elected. And so I guess my question to you is, like, does laughing, you know, work? Does it matter? Is it important to laugh at a time like this?
The thing is, laugh is an incredible tool, but it does not work alone. A lot of people kind of ridiculed him and just stayed at home and didn't go vote. It's not the laughter that got him elected. It's like the negativity and the kind of the apathy of they forgot at the end of the day what makes a candidate fail or succeed is not how many jokes you make. It's
Right.
like basically the ballots in the voting box. So that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, George W. Bush, he was elected for a second time, like against all odds, because basically a lot of Democrats didn't show up for John Kerry for whatever reason there is. But at the end of the day, it is people going out to vote. And I was telling you, like, yeah, I don't care if like 750,000 people went out on a women's march. Yeah, good for you. But like at the end of the day, if the following elections, the state elections, 12% show up, that is very quite detrimental. So at the end of the day, it's the power of the voting. At least you can joke about like how a dictatorship that you're having here, but you can still we can still make a change. And Alabama is still a great example. Alabama actually showed everybody there's nothing called a red state or a blue state. Every state is a swing state if enough people went out that believed in something and went out to vote. So it's not about like stop laughing. No, you should laugh every day. But like when it comes the midterms, when it comes the elections in your town, go vote. Use that laugh as thank you.
And we're going to open it up to questions to all of you now. So get your questions ready. Get your thoughts ready. There are people with microphones. You can sort of signal them and get them to go as they're walking around. I just want to ask you one last thing. What are you up to now? You're here in LA. You're one of us. Are you still in the business of satire?
Well, you know, in LA, everybody has have a script or two.
Oh, good.
And
You're taking
so
meetings.
Whenever
You're
you
taking
ask,
some meetings.
whenever you ask someone about LA, what are you doing? Like, I'm working on a script.
Yeah, excellent.
So there's
Yeah.
a few projects I'm writing with people, and
Awesome.
hopefully that will be like a different challenge.
Nice.
So
Let's hope it's still in the world of laughter and satire and commentary.
No, it's going to be very depressing.
Cool. Let's open it up to questions. You guys, yeah.
Hello? Yes. I was just wondering about your own religious upbringing. Was your family the least bit religious? Was it at all problematic when you did not end up being religious?
Well, all of us, we were brought up into a religious upbringing. We were very, we observed Ramadan. We prayed the five prayers, but it was not kind of a militant religion thing. It was like kind of like, um, as I said, there's so many degrees of being religious. I didn't do alcohol because I kind of like I think it tastes very bad. And but I grew up like in a house that we prayed and we observed Ramadan, and this is like this was our upbringing. My political views, however, doesn't reflect the fact if I'm religious or not, because like when you criticize the Muslim Brotherhood, that's not you being not religious. As a matter of fact, we're always discussing this from a political point of view. And but my biggest fight with people who either religious or believe in religion as a way of life, that I think religion should be kept as a personal choice and a personal lifestyle that should not affect the country or the society as a whole. I'm a big believer of secularism, and I've been vocal about this, and I've been criticized because unfortunately many places in the Middle East, when you say the word secular, it is pretty much equal to the word atheist. Well, they don't understand that actually being secular, and the thing is, they say that where many of them live in secular countries, and they enjoy the freedom that these secular countries give them, but they want religious laws in their countries, which is like an incredible paradox that like I'm still struggling to understand.
I have a question. First of all, it's a big pleasure to have you here. So it's pretty exciting. So I saw you on Jon Stewart and Trevor, and I didn't realize you were a doctor. So Kelly asked if you missed having the TV show, and I can imagine what that was like. Do you ever miss being a doctor? You ever drive by a hospital and think,
No,
I'm going in?
I do not. I do not miss the shifts. I do not miss the stress.
You don't want to go crack a chest somewhere?
What? No,
You
no.
don't want to go crack a chest?
I can crack the chest just out of like pure fun, but no, I do not miss it. No, sorry. It is actually like I think it's a blessing to actually be able to work and help people, but I think it's also a blessing, and it's an incredible blessing to be able to create something in the creative business. It's a very unpredictable job, but when it happens, it's very very rewarding.
Good comedians are very good at observing their environment, and they're usually very well informed, as you have demonstrated here. What would you say to your Egyptian friends about Los Angeles and the thinking here and behavioral? What has surprised you about being in the city, which is so diverse and has so many people from other countries?
Well, the thing is, I mean, I think Los Angeles is one of the most interesting cities I've been because it is vast. I mean, the city has 3 different climate zones.
Yeah.
I mean,
different time
you
zones.
have a climate in Santa Monica that's different from Central, that's different from the Valley. So, like, and you only need to drive for 15 minutes to find yourself moving from a sunny place to a rainy place. It's crazy sometimes. But also the fluctuation of everything in this country that's happening. It's it was so interesting to me to see Venice Beach, where you have very affluent, rich places and stuff that is totally run down. Or you go where you have Pasadena and you have like the mid Wilshire, and in the middle you have downtown and you have Skid Row, which is for me mind blowing. I went there, actually shot something in Skid Row, and I was like, it's like, how could this be happening here? So, but one thing that I appreciate about Los Angeles is the diversity of this city. My daughter goes to a school, public school, right next to us, and
Public school.
right, public school.
Public school.
Uh,
Say it again. See what happens.
And there is not like, the diversity of her class, the 25 kids in this class, this is the biggest one of the classes. And like she's having people from Korea, from China, from Iran, from Africa, from Latin America, from Europe, from white American, African American. Amazing. I mean, one of her friends, her mom is Jewish American from Michigan, and her father is from Cote d'Ivoire, from Africa. And when you ask her, and I do that when I ask her, what does your friend look like? And of course, she has a darker skin, but she will always like comment on the buns on her hair. Which is amazing. When you find someone else who's Chinese, and I said, like, what does he look like? It's like he wears glasses. So it's just like when we say like babies don't see color and race, we say this kind of like but it is an actual thing. And this is one of the things that I'm really appreciating of being here. This is something that I would have never had in a place like Egypt. Having this kind of diversity and the mosaic of people living here. And this is why this is a great, I mean, like we can make fun of America the whole time, but this is why this is a great country. It is stronger because of the diversity and how people are so, it sounds corny when I say melting pot. God knows what's in there. MSG basically, but it is the diversity and the how variable and different people are. And this is what makes this a great place to live. And I'm happy that my daughter is having this. So this is one thing that I would take away from it. If this is the one thing that I would give to my kids, to be living in a country, in a city like this, in a country like this, I really don't need anything else. That's great. That's for me, that's, yeah.
Hi, I was wondering if you subtitled the series you did on fusion and in Arabic.
Yes, I did.
And what was the feedback from what you got?
Well, it had like a good feedback, but a lot of people don't want to see that. They want to see me making fun of the things happening in Egypt. They are kind of like married to the idea of the show back in Egypt, and they don't want to see me anywhere other than this. And it's kind of like I had to grow up out of this experience because there was no way for me to continue doing stuff about Egypt while I'm here. You'll feel disconnected. This is my new reality now. This is my new life. This is like, who I am. And I have to discuss stuff that actually affects me here. So, but they would know. They want me to come up and make fun of it's just like, no, I cannot see you in any other light other than this. So it was more of a kind of like a mixture of acceptance, or not funny, or rejection. It was not as successful as it was in the Middle East. But a lot of people were happy that I'm trying to find new ways of to express myself here. And it's a hard transition, but this is what we have to live with.
Yeah. Bassem, I'm actually Egyptian and born and raised in LA, but I visited Egypt and I have tons of relatives. And my question to you is, it actually makes me sad to see what has happened over there. And I'm just curious, like, do you see hope and do you see a possible change sometime near future, in the distant future, of things getting better in regards to the politics and the people caring?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm not an oracle, but yeah, the thing is, there might be. I mean, what you have right now is not sustainable. This is like what you see in the Middle East is like 19th century's politics. But at the end of the day, but again, we did have in modern times dictatorship that went for a very long time, especially if they were supported by regional and international powers, because it's in their own interest to keep things as they are.
Yep.
Because the alternative will be like total disintegration of the country, not because democracy is bad, but because these regimes make sure that if they're not there, nothing else will be there. So whether or not we'll see this in our lifetime or not, I don't know, but it is not sustainable. And it really depends on so many factors that, I mean, you're asking me to answer a question that even a political scientist will not be able to do. So I don't know.
In retrospect, why did the Arab Spring fail? What could anyone have done differently to have made it succeed?
I don't know what would anybody have done differently, but I can tell you that the military was strong enough to actually regain power. The military, they have 60 years of experience. They had all of the cards in their hands. They were very smart. And the people on the other side of the revolution, they were pure and naive, and they just wanted, you know, they wanted freedom, they wanted democracy, but they didn't have the tools. And but also part of this is why, in general, like not just in Egypt, but in the rest of the Arab world, is that the military regimes in this part of the world made sure that you have a very I'm gonna use a medical term, anemic political life, very weak, very infertile, very a kind of like a political life and a political awareness that was not there, and they would kind of like leave a little bit of window for breathing, and they will kind of like keep the Islamist or the religious radical Islamist group kind of like at a like an arm's breadth, just to keep them there. So if the military would fall, the only other alternative is radicalism, and people will always come back to the military because they're afraid of that. And if you can see that, and a perfect example for that, for what happened in Syria, everybody was like, cannot wait to get Assad out of power, and he played his cards well, and he kind of released all of the militants. And then they became the alternative, and so like, well, I mean, Assad is horrible, but we have ISIS.
So what else are you going to do?
So what else you can do?
You look at Tunisia, I mean, the one that you're jealous of. I mean, that's an interesting case,
Tunisia
right?
is different, because Tunisia,
because they had civil society.
Here's the thing, Habib Bourguiba, although he was a dictator, but he was a secular dictator. You know, all of the other dictators, they sell themselves to the West as secular dictators, as a secular alternative to the Islamist radicalism, but none of these people are secular. They're all as conservative as the Muslim counterpart. But Habib Bourguiba was a true secular, and he did not spend the money on arming the military. He spent the money on education and on the health, the Department of Health. And this is why you have like the best kind of education, the best kind of awareness in Tunisia and all of the Arab world. And this may be one of the very few countries in the area where secularism is not a bad word.
Right. And where the Arab Spring isn't failing, isn't working perfectly.
I mean,
but
they
like
have their economic
happening.
problems, of course, and everything, but like they have a very strong feminist movement. Some of the strongest feminist movement there. They have very strong unions. And they have a very strong civil society. And these are the three things that any other military dictator in the other parts of the world will absolutely kill. So this is why we were having, this was like an uphill battle that like apparently, but however, you are right to saying that why it failed, but there is a silver lining of it, that there is now a whole new generation of people who are questioning everything right now. They're not as powerful. They're not going to go out in the streets and sacrifice their lives for God knows what, but they now look, the whole. That's not me. The whole kind of like how sacred the military and the religious authorities that were for our parents, they're not like that for those for the new. This is
still going.
This is a very persistent caller. So they are not in their eyes, the younger generation, they don't consider them as sacred and as revered as their parents and their grandparents like thought of them. So maybe there is a silver lining in the future. Is it for me?
We're good. Okay. You guys, thanks so much. Give a huge round of applause to Bassem Youssef.